In a quiet corner of rural East Lothian lies a First World War airfield, which is the home of the Scottish Museum of Flight. This year, East Fortune plays host to the only major air display in Scotland. Record crowds are expected. Over recent years, word has got around that this mid-July event is a great weekend.
The weather has been windy and overcast, but everyone is able to enjoy the rides and sideshows. The Museum of Flight was founded when the Ministry of Defence donated a Spitfire 16 to the Museums of Scotland in 1971. It could not be fitted into the Hall of Power at Chambers Street, Edinburgh, so the Department of the Environment allowed the museum to store the Spitfire in one of its hangars in East Fortune. Eventually, the museum submitted a request for the building. In January 1973, Hangar 1 and the adjacent Nissen Hut were officially allocated to the museum. Since then, the collection has grown and grown, along with the interest of the public. This is the most famous exhibit in the museum, Percy Pilcher's original Hawk glider. This was acquired by the Royal Scottish Museum in 1909. It first flew in 1896, the first manned flight in Britain. Unfortunately, he died in a crash in 1899. He could have beaten the Wright brothers if he had survived.
At surrounding airfields, the aircraft taking part have been arriving. At this small strip in Glenrothes, Fife, the only flying example of the Second World War Blenheim bomber flies in on the evening before. Jim O'Donnell, Chief Engineer of the Aviation Preservation Society of Scotland, takes advantage of this visit to pick up tips regarding the Museum of Scotland's Blenheim, which is being restored to static standard at East Fortune. Here, at another airstrip in East Lothian, several light aircraft have collected to prepare for the event, including Jim McTaggart's Starduster 2, which will provide a star turn with an aerobatic display. Day one of the two-day display has arrived. Many come early to enjoy what the museum has to offer, including all the sideshows. The members of the Aviation Preservation Society are on parade in Hangar 2, demonstrating and explaining the work that they do to bring battered wrecks back into pristine condition, ready for display in the museum itself. The Preservation Society has done sterling work over the past 20 years, producing many outstanding exhibits. Here, some of them are taking a break from their labours. on the Anson, a twin-engine trainer. With lunch over, the flying programme commences with a visit from the RAF Red Devils.
In Scotland. So we've got, that's one Scot, and I talk about the other one. Now what they do, now is the stack of the Royal Air Force Falcons, precision parachuting. That stack is over 400 feet high. Now we're going to bring around, Chris Headley will bring that stack round into a precision landing here. Right, and I will introduce the stack to you as they come in. Those parachutes are 220 square feet, made of ripstop nylon. They've got a toggle on the left, toggle on the right. Chris is telling them under radio, left turn, right turn. They simply pull down the left, pull down on the right. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I've introduced them. We've got on the bottom of the stack, Flight Sergeant Chris Headley, the team coach. Then we've got Sergeant Andy Whitcomb from Derby. Sergeant Vic Moore from Croydon in London. Flight Lieutenant Russ Booth, the deputy team leader from Stoke-on-Trent. Sergeant Buck Rogers, yes, Buck Rogers, and he's from Mountain Ash in South Wales. And we've got Sergeant John Curtin from Liverpool. Sergeant Clark Coggill from Elgin, Morayshire in Scotland. Sergeant Mickey Birchall from Market Drayton in Shropshire. Sergeant Lenny Gillis from Kingsbury in northwest London. He was going for the cross. Sergeant Matt Martin from Basildon in Essex. Sergeant Tony Rand from Gloucester. Wait for it, we've got Flight Lieutenant Al Floyd, and he's from Glasgow, and he's the team leader of the 1999 Royal Air Force Falcons. Ladies and gentlemen, you must believe me, but these are the top guns of their trade. That's the American bit. And they will actually go and make sure that's secure. And then...
There's the Lockheed Hercules, which is the mothership for the parachutists. Fantastic airplane, been around for a long time. I think the prototype flew in 1954. Amazing. Still competitive, still useful. Here's something a bit faster now. This looks like the Tornado. This is the swing wing airplane. When it goes fast, it pulls its wings back. When it needs to maneuver, it sweeps them forward. There, it's got them forward now. Now watch the wingtips. The terrific lift that wing's generating at the moment. The vortices at the tip, the pressure change with the vortices is causing that little cloud. That's what it is. It's a little cloud trail. Now we've got a biplane. This is Pitts, I beg your pardon, a Pitts biplane. Highly aerobatic, highly maneuverable. It may seem to you remarkable that in the 1990s, nearly into the next millennium, people are still flying biplanes and still demonstrating biplanes and still throwing biplanes around the sky. Well, the fact is, you see, that biplanes are, by their very nature, compact. Biplanes, with their bracing and their struts and so on, can be made to be extremely strong to withstand the tremendous stresses that aerobatics and the violent aerobatics that these chaps are doing. Now this is an amazing airplane. This is a World War II fighter, American. It's the Corsair, a Navy fighter using the Pacific a great deal. Now it's interesting. Watch it as it comes round. You'll be able to see the funny shape of the wings. Look at the crank in the wings there. You can see it now. You can see it now. Now this is an airplane that had a massive big engine, a massive propeller, and that crank wing means that it was able to have quite a short undercarriage, because the undercarriage comes from the lowest part of the wing. The wheels come down from the lowest part of the wing. So it really looks rather peculiar, but there's a lot of sense as to why it's like that. This is a Piper Cub in the colours of an observation aeroplane, again of World War II. Very famous aeroplane, the Piper Cub, in production for something like 45 years. A tail first aeroplane, it's very strange, look at that. There's a funny little plane right at the front of that aeroplane. It's only a little single-seater. And here's another single-seater. It's a sailplane, no engine, a glider, a sailplane. It's made of glass fibre. It has a beautiful finish on it. These are incredibly efficient aeroplanes in their own way, though they don't have an engine. They can fly very far and very fast. Now this is a Russian aeroplane, and it's throwing itself about, or being thrown about, and quite majestically really. Now we need to look at this aeroplane. This is a very famous aeroplane. This is a North American Mustang. Again, it's a World War II fighter aeroplane, single-seat fighter aeroplane, an American aeroplane, built by the North American company. It wasn't a great success when it was first built because it had an American engine, an Allison engine. Eventually it was fitted with a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, which, because of its power and more particularly the way in which it was supercharged, gave the Mustang much more performance at altitude, and this became an extremely famous, absolutely classic and important aeroplane for the American air war effort in Europe. It escorted American bombers right to the heart of Germany. It had an amazing range for a single engine, single-seat fighter. A truly, truly classic aeroplane, and doesn't it look like it? Now that's a de Havilland Chipmunk, and please remember that. That's a training aeroplane, a two-seat single-engine training aeroplane used by the RAF, introduced about 1950 and only retired very recently. Marvellous aeroplane, beautiful aeroplane, lovely ladylike aeroplane. Now here's another American aeroplane. This is a Beech aeroplane. It's in the line of the Beech D-18 Expediter series, two radial engines, something like, depending on how it was configured, 8-10 seats, used as an executive aeroplane, as a short-range airliner, used for communications with the military, all sorts of uses, ambulance and so on and so on. In production for an incredible length of time, this aeroplane, something like 40 years that aeroplane was produced. Now, another of the classic shapes, the Hawker Hunter, single-seat jet fighter, British built, beautiful airplane. This one's got long-range tanks hanging from it, but nonetheless that is one of the superb classic shapes of all time. The Hawker Hunter. But of all the classic shapes there ever were in the air, this is the outstanding one. This is the Supermarine Spitfire, the outstanding fighter airplane of World War II. Look at that marvellous shape, the elliptical wings. There's not a straight line on it anywhere. This is one of the somewhat later versions, I'm not exactly sure, but watch as it comes round. You'll see that there's a radiator under each wing. There you are now. Can you see? There's a radiator under each wing. So that means that it's at least a Mark 9 Spitfire. That's going from Mark 1 through Mark 9. It went up to Mark 22 eventually. Now I wonder what this one is, because I think there are two Spitfires here. This one's going to come round and it's going to come head on to us any minute, and we'll see what's under the wing. Yes, there's only one radiator and the oil cooler. So that is a different airplane, and that's an earlier airplane. That will be a Mark 1 to perhaps a Mark 5 in the earlier sequence of Spitfire development. But there's that marvellous wing, and the tail is curved as well. Everything's full of curves, full of grace. Absolutely beautiful airplane. Imagine being a young man and flying that round the sky. Would that not inspire you? Now this is a Tiger Moth. This is a very, very famous training airplane for the RAF and for civil clubs, and it was used as a training airplane by many, many foreign air forces as well. It's a classic biplane layout, 2 seats in tandem, one behind the other, single engine, fixed undercarriage, tailwheel undercarriage, used from about the mid-30s and into the 50s. The wartime primary trainer for the Royal Air Force and many Commonwealth Air Forces as well. Not very much power, it's only got about 130 horsepower. Difficult to fly well and accurately, not difficult to fly, but difficult to fly well, and that's the label, that's the description of a good training airplane. You don't want the pupil pilots to kill themselves, but you want to be able to teach them how to fly well and accurately. This is the third airplane in the sequence. This is the Scottish Aviation Bulldog. It's another military 2-seat trainer. In fact, the seats are side by side in this airplane, and it's got a tricycle undercarriage, and it's got 200 horsepower. It's moved up a bit in power. Lovely airplane to fly. So we have seen 3 airplanes in the sequence: Tiger Moth, Chipmunk, and the Bulldog. The Bulldog entered service in the early 1970s with the RAF and the RAF VR, and it is still being used by them today. Lovely airplane, and we've seen a sequence of 3 classic training airplanes. Now here's another training airplane. This is an American one. This is a North American Harvard. It was an advanced trainer in its day with 450 horsepower, 2 seats in tandem, enclosed. Its day was in fact again during World War II. All metal airplane, low wing, retracting undercarriage. You'll notice that this training airplane's got a retracting undercarriage, so that's why you would call it a sort of advanced trainer, I guess. One of the reasons you would call it an advanced trainer. Fairly straightforward airplane, made a terrible amount of noise, and had a very, very vicious stall. That's when you slow the airplane right down until it sort of falls out of the sky. And some airplanes fall out of the sky very gently, and some airplanes flick and twitch badly. And the Harvard flicked and twitched badly. Now, here we are with another aerobatic biplane. Single-seat aerobatic biplane. American flat 4 engine, fixed undercarriage, single seat, very curvaceous and attractive wings. Lovely looking little aeroplane, really. Like the Pitts Special that we saw earlier on. Compact, strong, very maneuverable. Can be flicked and pulled and hauled around the sky. They are remarkably agile, these little biplanes. Lots and lots of power. Up they go. Open the throttle. Up they go. But biplanes are quite draggy airplanes. They've quite a lot of drag. And so when you dive them down again, if you shut the throttle, they don't accelerate too quickly. They're not too slick. They don't move away from the pilot. Don't get out of hand. One hand in the throttle, wide open, shut, wide open, shut, and controlling the speed of the aeroplane regardless of what attitude the aeroplane's in. Now, this is an American Cessna. I think it's a 340. This is an executive aeroplane, twin-engined, flat six engines. It will be configured to anywhere between 8 and 10 seats inside, 2 pilots up front. Very useful aeroplane. They've been produced in thousands and thousands over the years. It's the Bristol Blenheim bomber. This you would call a light to medium bomber of the very early period of the Second World War. It was used quite extensively by the Royal Air Force, but in a sense it isn't a classic aeroplane with a great place in history. It really was the first monoplane, twin-engined, all-metal bomber for the Royal Air Force, and very good in its day it was too. But its day didn't last very long. Really, the recipe for a bomber is bigger than this Blenheim. It's a bigger aeroplane, probably with 4 engines, and carrying a bigger crew, a more specialist crew, more guns, and most importantly, more bombs. Many remarkable deeds were done using this aeroplane in the early part of the war. Many brave men flew this aeroplane, and I'm sorry to say many brave men died in this aeroplane. Now we've got the red arrows. Here they come, some of them streaming smoke. The basic idea of formation aerobatics, flying in formation and the formation doing aerobatics, there's nothing really at all strange about that. If you're flying in formation, 100% of your concentration is on keeping your position with regard to the leader and the other members of the formation. Where your aeroplane is, whether it's going up, going down, rolling around, whether it's right way up, upside down, is of no interest to you at all. You're only concerned to follow the leader and keep your position. And so the idea of formation aerobatics, there's nothing at all strange or peculiar about that. Now, having said that, you must please realize that I think the ability of the Red Arrows to fly their aeroplanes with the precision that they do is just unbelievable. I cannot conceive of how these aeroplanes are thrown around the sky and remain glued in position with never a tremor and a twitch. I cannot conceive of how they can change their formation so quickly and just lock into a new position again without a tremor and a twitch. It is unbelievable, the precision of the Red Arrows. Here they come again. They're moving around and doing this incredible barrel rolling maneuver with two aeroplanes out of the formation, and within seconds they can lock back and put themselves exactly back into position. Here they are again doing it. Incredible how they can achieve this without losing the place, with coming straight back into the lock-on position. Back, absolutely in position again. Streaming their coloured smoke. There they are, three in the middle, and the other two are immediately locked on and joined without a tremor or a waver. It's incredible. Incredible is the only word. They look as though they're going away, but they're not. Off they go into a break. The formation's broken up, but in no time at all. These are the individual performers, or the pair performers. Another one will probably appear in a second. Here he goes. And in an incredibly short space of time, they've got the formation back together again. How they have collected these airplanes from all around the sky after the break and pulled them back into formation, I have no idea how that's done. It is beyond belief. Do you see the streamer of cloud forming on his wingtips? We had that before, hadn't we? Must be a damp day. Here they come, and I think they're probably going to break any minute now. There they go, they've broken. The formation's broken. What a sight.
What's this?
Now look at the other side. Then round the back here, when I look inside the
Yeah.
Because this airfield's almost untouched since the day,
Sure.
you know, and it really is. You came up through with the old control tower there, just the business.
All right, I was just too busy looking at the runway to pay. I'll have more of a look.
There he goes, yep, up. And over.
Does it
No,
show?
he's got it. No, I just know. I've been there, got the t-shirt.
Yes, will be better.
Great tornado around there. This would be a wee skip Bobby Dazzler compared to that.
Going inside them.
Where's he going? Where's he going?
Right, I didn't get there. Ah, there's Bill. Hello, Bill. Thank you,